Yo, what up? What up? It's your boy Joe Breezy and his AL. Try not to let the MF slip this early, but you know what I'm talking about. So yeah, man, I've been excited to do this show. I want to rock this Gen X thing, man. I've been seeing it's apparently a lot of the newer cats and the newer generations kind of awoken the sleeping giant and been calling us out. And, we really didn't have no stake in the game. We weren't trying to, start none, don't start none, won't be none. That's our motto, and it just seems like it's becoming more and more prevalent. So I wanted to address it and have a good time doing it because that's my generation. That's when I grew up. And share with y'all a little bit about how our culture is, how it was, how we grew up, all the things that came along with being that. Because, like, that was really the last generation that was like that. Like, you couldn't, you could get away with so much more. The rules weren't as strict. You know what I mean? Like, majority of the things that were normal to us back then are completely, most of them are illegal. Like, literally, you can't go to your local grocery mart or whatever and leave your kids in the car for an hour while you go grocery shopping, and they're fine. They're content with it. All we do is sit in the car seat, you know, burn ourselves on the push-in car cigarette lighter and learn our lesson real quick. You couldn't let your kids go out and roam the streets from the time the sun came up to the time the street lights came on. Like that. Nowadays, that's unheard of. But when we were kids, that was the norm. That's exactly how it happened. There was no internet. There was no cell phones. When you're growing up in that era, there was just certain ways you went about life, and we're gonna dig into that. What up, Joe? What up? Jennifer Gross. That's actually not Jennifer. That's my son, Jaden. Love you, boy. He's just using mom's account. Um, I'll bring you in, Westfall, here in a little bit, man. I'm gonna kick for spin it for a minute. But yeah, so there was like a big detachment from what kids are growing up nowadays to what it was like when I was a kid. And I'm when I say Generation X, uh, take your, oh, gotcha, bro. Um, I lost my train of thought. But there's and when I'm talking about Generation X, I don't just mean just Generation X. The millennials, like especially the early millennials, they remember the same thing. They grew up the same way. Because I think let me get my facts straight. Gen X is officially from. I know it ended in 81, but I think it started. Let me look and see. I want to say I know it was the 60s, but I can't remember exactly what year it was. Usually between 1970, 19 to 1980. 1966 through 1980. So, that's a good sized gap. That's enough for people to have their own kids. You know what I mean? So, like, you could literally be born in the beginning of Generation X and pretty much have a kid still that's another Gen Xer, you know? So, when you talk about the early and ends of on both shifts on any generation, you come into this melding factor of where they're still kind of the same cats. And then also, you got people that were raised by Gen Xers that are basically grew up with the Gen X lifestyle and the same what do you call it? The same ideologies, the same way that they talk, act, and live their lives, and it depends because not to get off track, but like when Gen Xers, we didn't really have the boomers were the ones that, had us as kids, right? So they weren't like cuddling us or helicopter parenting or anything like that. We basically almost got no love from our parents. You know what I mean? I mean, we had love, but like if you were riding your bike down the street hauling ass and hit a ramp and busted your shit, they would laugh, and then you'd get up and you if you started crying, they'd be like, you better quit crying, just rub it off, or, shake it off, throw some dirt on it, shut up. Like they didn't really care. So you didn't really have that kind of, and so some of the Gen Xers, when they ended up having children themselves, they wanted to show that degree of compassion towards their kids, or so there was a portion of us that grew and had their kids that would coddle their kids and how do you feel about this and but for us there was none of that. So just like with anything, sometimes you want to reestablish that into a relationship with, say, your own children or whatever. But for the most part, like me personally, like my oldest three, well, actually all of them, but mostly my oldest three, they grew up with a Gen X mind state. They pretty much, as long as you don't catch the house on fire, you don't do nothing stupid, then you're straight. We don't even mess with you. Children back then, children were to be seen and not heard. You weren't allowed to interrupt your parents' conversations, especially with other parents or their conversations between themselves. Like I said, as soon as you wake up on Saturday, man, you wake up, you had Saturday morning cartoons. They don't even have Saturday morning cartoons anymore. It bugs the shit out of me because now you got like Cartoon Network and Boomerang. You only had like, even on your TV dial, you only had 13 channels, man. You didn't have like cable like y'all have, or streaming or anything like that, or internet, or nothing. So you'd wake up Saturday morning, your day off of school, and you start it with like a big bowl of Fruit Loops or Cookie Crisp, and you'd sit there and watch your Saturday morning cartoons until noontime. And then noontime, you'd notice that when all the cartoons shut down, like Soul Train would come on, you know what I mean? Or After School Rock or whatever, like, or even they'd have like straight movies. Like I remember when Friday the 13th Part 6 came out, it came on at like noon, and it was like, okay, that's the time when, I'd try to sit there and watch it, but your parents would already be like, all right, it's noon, get outside, go play, come back when the street lights come on. If you're not back when the street lights come on, that's your ass. You know what I'm saying? Like you catch a whooping. And The whoopings back then weren't nothing like the whoopings now. You didn't have like uh you didn't have like all these strict things, you know, like now we live in an age of CPS and you can't spank your children and you know, or you can only give them 3 licks. Dude, my mom would go ham, dude. If I acted a fool and I did something stupid, or if I wanted a candy bar at the Safeway or something, you know what I mean? Like, and I was like, no, but I want one. You know, dude, you would get your ass smacked right there in the store, right in front of everybody, you know, just unloaded on. And all the other parents, they wouldn't give 2 craps. Not only that, but if you acted stupid in the neighborhood, you know, if you acted stupid in the neighborhood and you got in trouble by someone else's moms, like, or their pops, they had the right to fully spank the crap out of you no matter what, your kid or not. Any kid that acted stupid got dealt with instantly. So you had this, you had a thicker skin about stuff. You didn't complain about it. You didn't bitch and moan and that's not fair, but blah, you know, there was none of that. You know, so what? You want to cry, I'll give you something to cry about. That's where our generation, that's where that terminology came from. You know, and I'm gonna get into it later, but when I say that Generation X is the most dangerous generation, it's because we were there before all of this technology. We were there before the internet. We were there before video games. I mean, we had video like Atari and stuff like that, but we were there before it was a necessity um, to keep you entertained. So what we did outside was our world. You know, outside, you go outside and you kick it and you find something to do. You figure out something to do. And most of the stuff that we figured out how to do was dangerous as shit because we didn't have any rules. We didn't have anybody to regulate what the hell we were doing. You know, some of the games and some of the stuff that we did, like, man, it causes broken bones and scars. I got battle scars all over me from when I was a kid, you know, because Red Rover, dude, for instance, Red Rover, man. I don't know if y'all know what Red Rover is, but you'd all hold hands, you know what I mean? Like you'd have think of like Braveheart, right? You have 2 lines of kids. You'd have like 5 or 6 kids in one line. Then you have 5 or 6 kids on the other. And you'd hold hands as hard as you could, right? And you'd say, Red Rover, let so-and-so come over. And unlike most sports, if you were the fat kid, which I was, you were the first draft pick. Like you were the one that was gonna get picked first because you're a freaking a bowl. You know, you're a bowling ball. You know what I mean? Like, so they would hold hands and they'd say, "Oh, send Joe Breezy over." And so then that kid would run as hard and as fast as he can and try to break the barricade. And if you could break through, then you know that side won that piece, and then you could pick another kid and blah blah blah. But what that resulted in is kids getting like clotheslined, like literally, boom, hitting the chest, flip over, flying. Speaking of chest, open chest, man, open chest. You'd have to go through school all day long. And you'd have to put your arm over your chest because it'd be open chest. And that meant that if you caught a kid slipping and he actually took his hand down for whatever reason to get into his pockets or whatever, wham, you just hit him in the chest as hard as you can. And they would think twice about ever not opening their chest ever again because you would double over. You get hit in the diaphragm, you can't breathe, get the air knocked out of you. Like, and those, like, people go, what? You know, that's like barbaric. But no, it wasn't. It was great. It was some of the funnest stuff ever in the world. You know, you get to go out and jump on your bicycles or your skateboards and, venture like miles and miles away from home. And like I said, there's no cell phones, there was no nothing like that. So you're basically like all on your own. There's no way to get home unless you walk or ride your bike back or skateboard, back to where you were. Um, there was no seatbelts. I know that's crazy for like a lot of you young cats, man, but no, there wasn't. They'd throw you in the back of the truck. You'd have like 12 kids in the back of a truck, cruising down the interstate doing 65 miles an hour, man. And if you were inside of a car, they'd put you anywhere. You could be standing in the middle of the front seat. You could be some stricter parents. They'd be like, okay, you three share a seatbelt. You know what I mean? Like, it was just a very liberating time as far as being put to your own devices. And, it sounds grimy, but it wasn't. It was freedom. And we loved it. We were the first generation to get MTV, and I'm not talking about MTV like y'all know MTV today. I'm talking about MTV when they played music videos 24/7. Like, literally, you throw on MTV and it was just music video after music video, and some of the greatest music videos that you ever saw. Thriller, was one of the first that I remember. Beat It, just tons of all these great, what people consider oldies now, but they were some of the hallmarks as far as the original music videos were created. Cyndi Lauper with so many, man. It clogs my mind thinking about it. But that was when you first got to see it. It's not like you're watching a rerun like nowadays, and you go and you pick up an old YouTube video. Like, you would literally sit and wait to watch the newest ones that came out, and you had to be patient. And that's another thing about our generation, is that we are very patient. We don't need everything on demand. We can wait a long time. If a kid talk crap on Friday, right when you're getting off the bus or whatever, you will wait till Monday. And then it is on like Donkey Kong. You know what I mean? Schoolyard fights every day was meet me outside. You talk crap. It ain't this keyboard warrior bullshit like it is now. You talk crap to somebody, you effed around and you found out. Because you can bet as soon as that bell rang at 3:00, it was going down in the playground or outside of school, across the street. Like, my parents used to always tell me, well, if you're gonna get into a fight, don't get into a fight at school. Go across the street, take them across the street. And if you got pieced up or you got handled by, like, I guess you could say a bully, but there wasn't really bullies, because nobody would just back down and no one would submit. So it wasn't really a bully thing. It was more of a, if you talk shit, but if some little kid talks shit to you and you didn't deal with it appropriately, your parents would be on your ass more than anything. Like, they'd kick your ass for getting your ass kicked. Everything was it was different. It was like Lord of the Flies. I don't know how many of y'all know that book or read that book or is familiar with it, but that's what it was really like. It was like the Gathering of the Juggalos, but for kids. there were no rules, man. You go, remember those electric boxes, like in every city, like on the one block that have those. It looks like a big table that have like the electric box, and that's where you'd like meet up. That was almost like your clubhouse. You know, you go and you'd meet up out there, and you'd see 6 or 7 bicycles thrown down in the yard, and all the kids would be chilling at the table and BSing. You know, it wasn't like we weren't sitting on our asses in our rooms. We hated our rooms. Our rooms were prison, dude. Like if that's why it was called getting grounded. Like kids nowadays, they love to stay home. My kid stays home. He'll be on his computer from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to bed and have no problem with it whatsoever. Like we didn't. We hated staying around, and that's why it was a punishment to be grounded. Nowadays, it'd be a punishment to get kicked outside. You know what I mean? To be like, get out of the house, go do whatever, run around, don't come back till the street lights come on until it gets dark. You know, they'd be like, what? No, but I want to get on Roblox and you know, Minecraft and Call of Duty. And nah, dude. Like that wasn't even the only time you played video games and stuff like that, or you got on your NES or your Sega or your Atari was when it was nighttime. You know, like Saturday night, once it was time for you to go home and blah blah blah, and you had to go eat dinner, and you know, you would play video games until your parents fell asleep, and then it was get on the phone, the wall phone. You know, you'd pull off the phone and you had this 20-foot long cord, and you'd sneak the phone. Hey, night, buddy. Love you. Sweet dreams, bro. Hi, babe. So, yeah, you get on this big heavy ass phone and run the cord in, then you talk to your crush, or you talk to the girl you're trying to hook up with, or you would start just dialing random numbers and doing prank calls, and they were stupid. You know what I mean? Like, hey, is your refrigerator running? Well, you might want to catch it. You know, like stupid shit, dude. But that was your entertainment. That's what you did. Or, you know, if you were lucky enough to have cable, then you would watch, you know, HBO or Cinemax, you know what I mean? And that had its own different feel to it. Or if your parents had money, you know, they'd take you out Friday night and let you go to, well, Blockbuster was there, but most of the kids, they couldn't afford Blockbuster back at the Gap. So there's all these video, like mom and pop video shops. And I'm sure if you've ever seen Clerks or Jay and Silent Bob, that's that, you know, where they own the little video store. That's that kind of a thing. You go in there, you'd rent a video for the weekend, and God forbid you don't rewind your VHS tape because they charge you an extra $1 next time you came in there. And if you got charged that extra $1, you're getting $1 taken out of your ass by your mom. Like, you know, yeah, rewind that charged me $1. It was just dope. It was a dope time. But what I get into when I'm saying, like, once again, how we're the most dangerous is because we are next in line to the throne of the world. You know, all these boomers are getting so old in politics and in established positions that now is our time. So whenever you go to see a doctor or a lawyer or, you know, writing your congressman or a president of the United States, you're pretty soon going to be dealing with a Gen Xer. And they give no qualms about putting up with your feelings, how you feel about that, what offends you. Nobody got offended when we were kids. You know, you actually the more the offensive you were, the funnier it was. Like your best friend, you literally insult them with the highest insult you could possibly think of just upon seeing them. So we didn't get triggered. You know what I mean? Like I hate that terminology. Oh, that just triggers me. You know, we didn't get triggered. We were very thick skinned. You could say whatever you want. Didn't bother me. And if I was in a bad mood, or someone was just not having it, or maybe they got their ass kicked, or they got grounded, and they're already pissed off at life, then if you go talking crap to them, then you're gonna meet up after school, and somebody's gonna catch an ass whooping one way or the other. You know, the movies, man. God, the movies, dude. If you went and mowed yards or whatever, or took care of the old neighbor next door, took care of his plants while he was out or something, or um, dog sat, or for chicks babysat, then that's how you earned your bread. And if you were able to earn bread, then you'd go to the movies, and I think it was back then, like the cheapest movies I remember were, you had the dollar movies, which were $1, and then you had regular movies, which were like $3, maybe $3.50, or you go to the arcade or whatever. But the movies were the greatest freaking movies ever. Like, yeah, for the younger cats, man, like, and the older cats that don't care about the movies because it's all crap. It's all crap. That's how they always tell it. Your music's crap. Your movies are crap. It's all crap. But those are literally the greatest movies of all time that sparked some of the biggest franchises of all time, and especially in the horror genre. So you had, Friday the 13th, you had Nightmare on Elm Street, you had Halloween, and y'all may know all these, know all these movies and stuff, but to be there at that point in time when it just came out, where it was the first time anybody ever saw any of it was just mind blowing. I could name lists off for days, like Chud, Ghoulies, dude, there's so many of them. The Gate, like all these great flicks, man, that to a lot of people that go, yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. But did you watch it did you see the preview, on Rabbit Ear Antenna TV, and have to sit there and go, dude, and wait for it and wait and wait. Then finally, because if a movie came out in the theaters, it would be at least 6 months before you saw it on VHS. And then another 6 months before you would see it on like an HBO or a Cinemax or anything like that. So if you didn't actually save your bread up or plan in advance, you weren't going to see it on the big screen. And once it was out off the big screen, that was it. You'd never see it on the big screen again. They didn't have like throwback movies and stuff like that like they do now. So it was a big deal, Same with video games, stuff like that. Like eventually they got to where like you could rent video games, and even game stations. Like you could rent a Nintendo or a Super Nintendo from like Blockbuster or whatever. But in the beginning, it wasn't even like that. It was the gaming industry didn't even hit into the rental industry. So the only way you could see or preview a video game is you'd have to go to like Toys R Us, right? So you go to Toys R Us and they would have these, it'd be like a television setup here, right? And then down here it would have like a little console and it'd have different games, and you'd hit the button, dink, dink, and it's like a mechanical button, and it would flip it from one game to the other. And I have that set up in my living room because I remember it from when I was a kid and I love it. So I literally made my own to where I can flip it from my original Nintendo NES to my Sega Genesis 16-bit to my PlayStation original, then PlayStation 2, my Xbox original, so on and so forth. So, but that was the only way you were going to see any of that, any of the new video games. You know, you heard about it word of mouth. If you were real rich and like I mean, not rich, but like upper middle class or lower high class, then you had like Nintendo magazine or or stuff like that. But for especially the poorer kids, you didn't have a chance in Hades of finding out what new video games were coming out unless you and your homies were talking about it. So that brings up another thing is communication. Communication was, you didn't have it. So like if you were bored and you couldn't get a hold of none of your friends and you tried to call them on the phone and no one's answering, you talk to their parents. Oh, yes, Mrs. Blah, blah, blah. Is so-and-so there? No, he's out playing. The only way you were going to find your homies is riding around the neighborhood on your bike or on your skateboard or walking if you had to. And you would see the yard that had your homeboy's bike in it, or like a bunch of bicycles in it. So you see like 6 or 7 bikes. So you go and knock on the door and they'd all be hanging out in the back or, in the backyard. Or you'd have to figure out where they went from there. So they'd be like, oh, yeah, they went out to go play. You're like, okay, all the bikes are here. So did they go down to the cave over there, or did they go up to the skate ramp? Or maybe they went to, the pool hall, so you'd go, okay, where am I at? What? Okay. And then you'd go, sure enough, you'd go somewhere and you'd find them all and they're like, yo, blah, blah, blah. And everybody's just hanging out and bullshit. It wasn't like you could text your boy and be like, yo, man, where y'all at? What's cracking? What's going down? Blah, blah, blah. Nah, it didn't exist. You had to be self-reliant, self-sufficient. You had to rely on literally nobody or nothing, just your intuitions and have to think like your peers in order to, what would you call it? Circumnavigate the globe in order to figure out where everyone was and what was happening at the time. Skating rinks, man. Dude, he used to literally go hang out, skate in a circle all night long, try to make out with chicks or whatever, while some DJ that's probably in his 20s sitting there spinning it. And I know like y'all can think of like what is that? Strange Things, but that's pretty much really what it was like. That was your entertainment. That was what you did. You didn't have any other options. Playgrounds tried to kill you. Every freaking slide, every swing on every playground, including the one at your school, was designed to cripple and or kill you. And especially in Texas. Like, we had these all metal slides, and you're talking like, you go to school September 1st. That was when you started school. It was right after Labor Day, the day after Labor Day. And it would be scorching. And these slides would literally like burn your skin off, like peel, or they'd be so sharp that you could literally cut yourself to the bone on. And it was great. And I'm not, when I say all this stuff, I say it with nostalgia, and I say it with, man, I miss that stuff. I remember in first grade, we had this slide, right? And all it was a big piece of tin metal, and it was shaped like a wedge. So it started about 3 feet, and then just go up to about, I don't know, maybe 8 feet, maybe 10 feet. And so you would literally hand crawl across this slide until you got up so high, until your however far your braveness factor would take you, and just slide straight down the edge of it. The top of this thing didn't have a bar. It didn't have any kind of protection. It was sharp, and it would cut the inside of your hands, and you'd bleed. That's all there was to it. But no one gave a shit, being a latchkey kid. So for those of y'all that don't know, when you were a latchkey kid, that meant that your parents worked later than it was where you got off school. So you got out of school like 3 o'clock. So if your mom and dad worked till like 8 o'clock, they literally give you a necklace and you put a key on it, or you put a key in your pocket. And when you got home, and I'm talking young, I'm talking first grade, second grade, third grade. I remember first time I think I broke into my house was in second grade on Kramer Lane in Austin. So you'd have to let yourself in, you'd lock the door behind you, and then just don't burn the house down. That's the only rule. Don't burn the fucking house down. So you'd sit there. I remember I was so young that in order to get into 3 liters of soda, back then we had 3 liters of soda, but they had metal caps, So in order to get into it, I was so small. My mom left me a pair of pliers so that I could actually use the pliers to get the top of the soda bottle off. You know what I mean? Like, and you were up to your own devices. Then that's when you could actually, run around, act a fool, pretend that the house is yours, or whenever your parents went on dates or whatever, same thing. They just leave on a Saturday night and tell you, just don't burn the house down. You learn to cook on your own, like I think I was like 6 or 7 when I first started cooking like eggs by myself, or using the oven, or, to make like fish sticks or something, and also subsequently, that was the first time my he wasn't even my stepdad at the time. He was my mom's boyfriend. They went on a date, and he got us cable. So like I'm sitting at home all by myself, second grade, and watching HBO, and this movie comes on, and it's called The Exorcist. So it's like I'm home alone, second grade, and I'm watching this terrifying ass movie. called The Exorcist, all by myself, man. And it was the most frightening experience in the world. Like I would literally see Linda Blair in every window and every reflection, and but it was so exhilarating. It was so freaking awesome. Like I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world. You weren't sheltered. You already knew every cuss word known to man. You'd already been beaten with almost every object in your household, the electrical cords or chanclas or shit, man. I remember one time my mom broke my ass broke a ping pong paddle over my ass. And it was like that in school too. If you acted a fool in school, they'd pull out a paddle, and it was this big board, like a two-handed board, and they would drill holes in it so that it was more aerodynamic to bust your ass with that shit. And it was completely legal. It wasn't like it was some kind of weird thing. It's just the way it was. It's just the way it was. And so, like, I know a lot of the younger cats, they look at that and they're like, oh, that's abuse. And no, it wasn't. That's what made you respect, your parents' authority. That's what literally made you understand that you do not cross certain boundaries. You do not talk back. You do not act a fool. You do not disrespect others or especially your elders. You go and you talk some kind of crap to an adult. Oh, dude, it was over with, man. Over with. You get 50 cents, your mom would kick you out on like a Saturday. You're in like second or third grade. They'd throw you like 50 cents. If you're lucky, you got $1. And you'd go and head to the convenience store. And back then they used to have, there's a whole section of candies that you could buy for a nickel. A whole section of candies you could buy for a dime.
Sour Patch.
Yeah, Sour Patches.
It's kind of dive right out to the corner store.
Yep, exactly. And then there would be, go to Circle K or something, and there'd be tons of freaking arcade games. So you can go there and you can freaking play arcade all day long. As long as you were good enough at it, you could go and jump on some Ninja Gaiden or, I remember when I was in second grade, my big one was, dang it, what's the name of it? You probably don't remember. It had the cars, kind of like Knight Rider, but you could go up into the back of the truck to get repairs, like if you're about to die. Man, I can't think of it, but I'd be stuck on that game all day long, like, because I was good at it. So the better you were at it, the longer you could stay playing. And if you sucked and you died, then you got to pop another quarter in or whatever. Then the malls came out. I remember when the malls got huge. You could actually go to the mall. Now, yeah, you can still go to the mall, but it wasn't like it was back then. In the early hours of the day, the mall was for old people. The mall was literally for old people. And what they would do, they'd speed walk. Yeah. And they'd sit there and speed walk all the way around the mall. So there weren't they weren't like, and Jen's, she's a millennial. She was born in 87. So she's like 7 years out, but she still experienced the same shit, I was born in 78, so I got to watch it all really start to take hold, and especially with my older cousins and stuff like that. You know, that's when they were going through middle school, and like when Back to the Future and stuff came out, I was still in elementary, but I was already like, I already had friends that we were blood brothers. Like that was a thing too. If you were like close homies and you're like, that's my blood brother, and you'd go and you'd sneak and get like a kitchen knife or a razor blade, cut yourself open, both of you cut yourself open and mix your blood together, and that's when you were like true homies, man, for real. For life, bro. And you didn't realize that was only gonna last about 2 years.
Sisters spit in her hands and shake.
Yeah, the Spit Sisters. Yeah, I didn't do much. It's gay.
Oh.
But that's another thing. You could say gay and it didn't mean homosexual. It just meant it was gay. Like it literally did. Like it had nothing to do with sexuality or anything like that. It meant stupid. That's stupid. Because the boomers, to them,
I still say gay.
Gay was it meant, that's happy. Like, oh man, we had a really gay time last night. It was awesome. Hang on, let me hold up. My oldest son's calling me. Yeah. Gotta take this family first over everything. What's up, boy? What's up, boy? Yeah. I'm on the podcast right now. No, you're not on speaker. Yeah, what time are you talking about? All right, yeah, hit me up. I can't say that right now, but I'll text you. All right, love you. Later. Yeah, well, my oldest son, he's what, 17? Yeah, 17 going on 18.
17 going on 14.
Yeah, 17 going on 14. Nah, he's getting a little bit better. He's one of them cats that like literally tried to follow how I was when I was a kid, and it just
He's a bad little boy.
it doesn't work out in this world. Not the way this world is anymore. Back in the Gap. That's another one that reminds me of
Troublemakers.
Gen Xers. We broke the law all the freaking time, but we didn't get busted. Like we got away with more shit than we got in trouble for when it came to legalities and stuff. Like man, I think I boosted my first car when I was like 12 years old. Like literally. We're just, because you're a rampant kid, you don't have all these what do you call it? I don't know, like all these limitations. You're just basically set free in your world to do whatever you need to do. So sad, man. Just getting phone calls and stuff. So yeah, what was that, babe?
Your limitations as children.
Yeah. You didn't have it. I mean, and then you could pull the double bullshit. And I think y'all probably seen it if y'all ever watched like Stand By Me, but we did it all the time, where you would literally go, oh, I'm going to go stay at Billy's house. And Billy would tell his mom, oh, I'm going to go stay at Breezy's house. And then, everyone would say that they're staying at someone else's house. And they didn't care enough to call the other parent and be like, well, let me make sure that that's where you're staying. They're like, all right, whatever, get out of our. What? We get a night without kids? Get the hell out of here. You know, go. Yeah. So then you'd all meet up somewhere and you'd stay out all night long, hanging out and partying. Go to a field or go to the creek or, venture off somewhere and just be lawless. Maybe one of y'all are old enough to like talk your older brother into, or talk the homeless dude into buying y'all like some Mad Dog 2020 or some Night Train. And then y'all could all spend the whole evening, a whole night drinking a bunch of Mad Dog and puking up great freaking wine. I didn't even know Mad Dog because it's called MD 2020. I didn't know that the MD stood for Morgan David until I was in my 30s, like my late 30s, because everyone just called it Mad Dog 2020, And like when Guns N' Roses came out with the song Night Train when I was still young, he's not talking about the drink. He's talking about heroin. But yeah, I'd literally like, oh, dude, they made a whole song about Night Train. Because it was like a wine. It was like hobo wine. But you could get like a whole bottle of it for like $2. And if you weighed under, 80 pounds, between the four of y'all, you'd be trash, man. Like trash. Another thing millennials could do that you could never see today is buy cigarettes for your parents. So like your mom could literally either park outside of a Circle K or 7-Eleven and just send you in there to go buy a pack of Marlboro Reds. And you're like, 9, 10 years old, if that. You go in there and be like, yeah, I need to get a pack of Marlboro Reds. And they like look out the window and your mom will be like, yeah. And they'd be like, oh, all right, sell you a pack of smokes. Or they'd write you a note, oh, go take this up to the corner store. Tell them I need a pack of cigarettes. And yeah, you could do that. It wasn't like, and no one batted an eye. No one gave a shit. It was great, man. Nowadays everything's so, I don't know, man. It's so confined. It's so, what would you call it? It's, I don't know. It's so rigid and strict. Yeah. There's no freedom in it, you imagine right now, if I had a station wagon and I loaded up 8 kids in the back with no seat belts and they're just like in the back trunk area, or even have your kid laying on the back of because you had bigger cars back then. So like where the back seat, where the
window meets the back.
Yeah, the window meets the back. You'd lay on that back deck, and you just sit there and you could like, flip your thumb to the police or make faces, and all they would do is make faces back at you. You'd be like, and they'd be like, they didn't care, dude. There was none of that. It was a beautiful time to be alive, and it was also a very dangerous time to be alive. Like the bike ramps we used to make and the skateboard ramps. And, you take some thin piece of plywood in a center block and see who could go as fast as they could, down the hill and jump that freaking thing. And then after you got good at jumping it, then you'd start putting kids underneath the ramp. See how many kids you could jump over until you actually landed on a kid. And then if you were that last kid, man, You just, gritting and holding, hoping that that back tire doesn't come down and hit you in the chest or hit you in the belly or, and leave a big red mark or, are going to need stitches. And then you're going to get in trouble because you had to, bother your mom with taking you to the hospital because you needed stitches because you're acting fucking stupid. So once again, reiterating the fact, that's why Gen X is like the most dangerous generation, dude, because we cared not about most things that people think of as detrimental, and we were fearless. We didn't blink an eye. If someone said, "Oh, I double dog dare you," oh shit, dude, it's fucking over with. You double dog dare me, like I'm doing it. I don't care. I double dog dare you to jump off that 2-story roof or skateboard off the 2-story. All right, let's do it. Without hesitation, not even caring, man, not one bit. And if you were lucky enough, you'd have like your uncle or your parents or whatever outside sitting on the porch smoking a cigarette and watching and laughing, because then you had an audience and then you could show who was the toughest out of all y'all. I remember one time so in my house, right across the street, there's like a division between these two properties. There's two houses, but like in between, there was this little gravel pit where it was like kind of like, I guess, the division between it. I don't know what you'd call it, but it was like a separation divide or whatever. And that was the fight pit. That's where that's where all the neighborhood kids would go to fight. Anytime you had problems with other motherfuckers or whatever, all right, meet me at the gravel pit. I remember one time my uncle, I think he was in his 20s, but all the kids from the neighborhood started coming out, and I was just sitting on the curb, just chilling. And I was like, "Oh, everyone's showing up. That's cool. No big deal." And then, I saw my uncle. He comes out and goes to my driveway, and he sits in the back of my stepdad's. I don't even know if he was my stepdad at the time. Opens the back of his tailgate and sits in there, and he puts his box of wine down. He has a Budweiser in his hand. And I'm like, "Yeah, what's he doing out here?" And then I kind of got it. I started looking at all my quote unquote friends. I mean, they were my friends. I'm not going to say quote unquote, my bad. But started looking at all my friends what's going on? They're like, "All right, you're going to get it." And I was like, "What?" I was like, dude. And they're all squaring up. And I was like, I look over at my uncle, and he's kind of laughing. He's like, yeah, lights up his cigarette, and the fight was on. It was 5 or 6 of them. And I can say first names. It was Daryl and David V. I don't know if Ryan was. I don't think Ryan was there. I think Mike and John were there, and yeah, and they just started beating the crap out of me. I was fighting them all off. I was throwing kids to the ground, beating the crap out of them. And finally, after everyone's got blood, everyone's got scrapes and bloody elbows and knees from the gravel pit. And, finally it was over, and I was still, on top of the king of the hill. And my uncle got all pissed off, man. Just motherfucker bullshit. And grabs his shit and goes back into the house. And then I was like, yo, and I told him, boys, I was like, what the fuck was that all about? And he's like, dude, your uncle gave us like $2 each to see if we could beat you out to jump you, you know? And I was like, dude, are you kidding me right now? He's like, dude, that was like $10. You want to go to the movies? I'm like, fuck yeah, let's go to the movies. So, you know, so we ride our bikes to the movies with the money that my uncle paid my friends to beat me up to see it. But he got mad because he wanted to see me get my ass kicked. I think I pissed him off. But like that was just like awesome. Yeah, or to all of us. You know, it didn't phase us. It wasn't like we were like, no man, you took money to beat me up. You're not my friend anymore. It was like, dude, we got $10. Yeah. Just a fight. We do that all the time for free. Dude, it was great, man. I remember one time, same uncle. Uh, it was me and my two little brothers. And I'm gonna have them on Saturday. They're gonna come on, and we're gonna do a part 2 to this. And we're gonna just tell stories about all the stuff that we did back in the day, which is kind of what I'm getting into now. Now that everyone's got the gist of what I'm talking about. But yeah, he was we had this great idea. He had a like a I don't remember if it was a bull taco or like a might have been like a Honda 250 dirt bike. And this is in the middle of the city and shit, you know. And we had this great idea. We were like, my cousin was there. He was about 3 years older than me. We're like, all right, man, you sit on the back of the bike with my Uncle Daniel, blah blah blah, and you hold on the rope. And then we tied the rope to a little red wagon, like a radio flyer or whatever. And we're like, we'll just have him, you know, we'll tow behind him and go through the neighborhood, and go, you know, riding around on the back of, you know, in the wagon behind the motorcycle. So it's like I was at the very back end of the wagon. No, I was in the middle, and my second youngest brother, he was in the front, and my youngest brother was in the very back. And so we start going around the neighborhood. Everything's cool. My uncle, he thinks it's funny, you know. So like, he starts going faster and faster, and there's a whole intro to this, but I'm not going to get into it. I'll wait till they're on because it's really freaking funny. But the way it concluded was we finally get to the top of the hill in the neighborhood, and at the bottom of the hill is our house. And so he's like, all right, y'all ready? Y'all motherfuckers ready? And we start going down that hill, and before you know it, like the wagon, the motorcycle's going and the wagon's following, and the wagon starts like gaining on the motorcycle. So like my uncle's like, oh shit, better go faster. So he starts going faster to get the slack out of it. And then before you know it, like we're still doing this, and my cousin's like, dude, he realizes, he's like, dude, it's out of control, man. We're doing like 20 something miles an hour. And he's like, man, it's out of control, man. And so he unwraps the rope, chunks it, and I watch the rope go down, go underneath the wagon. It pulls the handle down. The handle hits the street, bang, 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 and then the wagon starts rocking, dude, and it just elbows and assholes fucking everywhere, dude. I remember grabbing my little brother, my second oldest brother, or my next youngest brother. I remember grabbing him by the back of the shirt and like using him as a shield to take all the pavement blow. And so we're like tumbling. We end up in the ditch and shit. And we all pop up, and my brother, he's crying, and like we're like, oh, calm down, because we're like literally across the so my house would be here, like, okay, so my house would be here, the road's going this way. We tumble in the ditch right in front of the street in front of my house. So my house was a corner house. So like we end up in the ditch right before the house. And he's crying. We're like, shut up, man. And like my uncle comes back around on the motorcycle. He's like, shut the fuck up. Your parents are going to hear you. I'm like, yeah, man, don't get us fucking in trouble, dude. They find out we were riding behind the motorcycle on the wagon. They're going to kill us, dude. And he's just bawling. And he pulled his shirt. His white shirt's now got this big red blood-soaked thing. He like pulls it up. And he's just got like road rash, like just, dude, huge, all the way wrapped. And he's like, starts catching his breath. No, man, no, I'm all right. You know, this thing like, so we chill outside till it's like time to go to dinner. And the mom, you know, you can, because all the parents around dinner time, you start hearing all the parents start calling out all their kids' names. And so mom's calls out for all of us to come to dinner and stuff. And like we're sitting there eating and we're like looking at each other like, man, don't fucking say shit. Don't fucking let you know. And like he's like, I forgot how it went down, but like he asked if he wanted seconds or something, and he did like a reach for the, and he was like, you know, did like one of those, and the parents caught on there like, what are you know, on about, you know? And he's like, oh, nothing. And I think I was like maybe 10, so he's probably like 6. Somewhere about there. He's like, nothing. Still had like the little kid speech. Oh, no, nothing was wrong. And they finally came over there. Let me see. Look, pull your shirt up. They were like, what the fuck? All right, what the fuck? And it was like, oh shit, dude, we're all busting. My uncle, like, he comes out of the room and he instantly knows. So he like instantly leaves the house. He's like, you just see him come out of the hallway and he's like, what? Shit. He shuts the front door and hauls ass. So they're like grill us about what the fuck I told you. And, you know, then the ass whippings start flying, the belt comes out, whole 9 yards. It was so great. And that's like a drop, half a drop in the bucket of like the crazy shit that we would get into. You know, we'd constantly go out. There's this one spot in Austin, it's called Walnut Creek. We used to go ride our bikes over there. And there's like big cliffs, like 50-foot cliffs and stuff. And I just got a girlfriend. She was 13, I think. I think I was like 10 years old. And you used to be able to go down the cliff. It's kind of like steps. It'd go down, then it'd be like a 10-foot drop, then down, then another 10-foot drop down. So you literally jump, you know, all the way down to the bottom. But it was dangerous as shit. And so we were going to show the girls this. And so like I was like being a super cool guy. And I'm like, yeah, come on, let's roll. So I go running at the cliffs, go jump down to the next portion of it. And I hit one of those, it's like a root that comes out of the earth and then goes back into it. So it's like a perfect foot trap. And I'm like, yeah, because I've done it a million times. So go jump. But that root catches me and dude, I boom, all the way to the ground. Like probably about a 45, 50-foot drop, you know, but I hit everything on the way down. And I had to get to the bottom and I'm like looking up. And all of them are like looking down and they're like, oh my God, dude, he's dead. I'm like, like, I come up and dude, I got like this huge scrape all down my hand and my wrists and my elbows. And they finally get down there and I'm like, trying not to cry, because there's a chick there, so I'm like, no, no, I'm all right, man. I'm all right. And they're like, they get down there. They're like, dude, look at your head. And I was like, I can't look at my head. I was like, what? And I go to feel, and my hand stops like 3 inches from my head. And like, I got this freaking goose egg that's like busted my head so hard that it's like the skin's almost like splitting and it's like bleeding down my face, but it's just this huge freaking, they're like, this is perfect Gen X example. They're like, all right, man, we gotta help him out. All right, you go to the creek and get some moss. So like 2 of the kids that go to the creek and they get moss, right? Like pull moss out of the creek. And they come back and they're like, just hold still. Like you're almost playing like army, you know what I mean? Like playing like you're an army vet or something. And they put this moss on my head. They're like, yeah, the moss it'll heal it, man. It'll be awesome, man. Blah, blah. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I'm like, oh man. And I was like, I even made like a joke or something about it. Like, I got a splitting headache or something, some stupid shit. And so they're holding it on there for a while, and they're like, all right, man, you think we can climb back up? We'll get back home, blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, man, I think I can make it. And they're like, pull the moss off. And the look on their faces, dude, I think it was David and Gerald. The look on their faces was priceless. They were shocked and horrified and terrified all at the same time. And apparently, where they pulled the moss from, it had leeches in it. So there was like these 2 leeches stuck to this giant golf ball, softball size thing on my head. And they're like, dude, get it off. They start smacking. And I'm like, oh, God. Like, oh, fuck. Fucking motherfuckers, stop. They're like, dude, you had leeches on your head, dude. What are we supposed to do? And I'm like, man, just go. I'm going home. Fuck it. I'm going to go home. So walk all the way. I think it was like, oh, dude, I lived like on about Runberg area. So from Walnut Creek, that was probably like a 2-mile walk, easy. So I'll walk all the way home, man. And I get home and my mom sees me. And she's like, what in the fuck? I was like, yeah, I love the creek and yeah, I fell down the cliff. And she's like, you stupid motherfucker. And then comes the ass, so I'm getting my ass whooped. I already had leeches on my forehead. I already fell down the cliff trying to impress a chick. I can now get my ass kicked by my mom. And to top that all off, back when you got head injuries, back then, the thing is now you're not allowed to go to sleep. You got to go, like, I think it was like 4 to 6 hours. You're not allowed to go to sleep. Sit your ass down and you fall asleep. Because if you fall asleep, you'll never wake up again. Did you ever hear that, Jen? Mm-hmm. Because you had a concussion, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, they thought you had a concussion. You're not allowed to sleep. So I'm like stuck in a chair watching, like, I don't know.
I still go by that. Oh, you've had a concussion. You shouldn't sleep at least for another 2 hours.
Right. Yeah. No, it's legit, but I mean, it was like, oh, well, how do you know? Like you didn't get any doctor.
What are you, a doctor? Why don't you just watch me?
Right. You go to a coma, you'll never wake up. But stuff like that, man. When I bring my brothers out, I'll tell the full story of it. But we had a go-kart that my uncle got, and he didn't have a chance to put a steering wheel on it yet. But we were old enough and smart enough to know how to start a go-kart. I think I was that's about 10 years old, same age. So I was old. I was like a year older than Jaden is now. And that's crazy to think that, because all that kid does is play Fortnite and sit in his room. Like, he wouldn't know how to freaking. And I was already tearing down engine, like, to come to the engines and stuff. And we ended up putting a chainsaw motor onto this 2-series dirt or go-kart. But we had no steering wheel. So I was like, we'll just use some vice grips. So we clamp vice grips on the steering wheel post. And that was our steering wheel. And I'll get into the details Saturday when my brothers are on, but it ended up resulting in broken legs, and my brother is in like a full body cast from like his chest all the way to his ankles. It was
so funny.
It was. It was great, dude. It was great. We didn't care, man. We weren't snowflake ass kids. See, that's where Jen gets it. That's where her millennial stuff kicks in. Because she's like, she knows about, getting dropped off at the mall and having to find your way home and stuff like that. But like the torture and pain and the broken bones, and like I got how old was I when I got hit by that truck? The first time I got hit by a full speed moving vehicle, it was doing like 45. I think that was 6th grade. Yeah, trying to run across the street to get my pack of cigarettes that I'd stashed so I wouldn't get busted for stealing cigarettes, because I went to go steal candy and shit from the store. And I figured if I got busted with my cigarettes that I didn't steal from the store, that I'd be in more trouble than for stealing candy. If you stole candy, that's one thing, but if they caught you stealing cigarettes when you're, in 6th grade, then they might call the police or something. But yeah, that ended up taking my. I still got the scars to this day. If y'all can see right there, that's where they had to nail nails to nail my wrist down into my bone, because it snapped my whole wrist off, and my hand was actually wrapped around my arm like that. It was awesome though. Those were like battle wounds, you know what I mean? And everybody had them. Every kid had them. We used to have rock wars. So we would, like, in the neighborhood, we get like 5 or 6 kids versus 5 or 6 kids. And you take all your bicycles and like take like sheet metal or plywood or anything you could, and you build like a fort. And you go collect the biggest rocks you could, and you chunk it at each other, and you have to, you just start pelting the shit out of each other. And my cousin, Chris, he ended up getting a 4x4 block that my stepdad used to use to block the tires whenever he'd work on his truck. And he got that big motherfucking man, and he chunked it. And they had this piece of tin, like tin siding, and it hit the tin. It just kind of bent. And this kid, David V, I won't say his whole last name, but he was like right behind it. You could see his face, like, oh shit. And that thing went flat right the corner. Like, got him. Dude, blood and spit and tears and ass and everything came out. Like, before you know it, we're on the me and my mom, because once the kids start crying and screaming, that's when the parents finally came out because it wasn't funny anymore. They come running out. They're like, what the fuck? And they drag him inside. And I just remember the sink being filled with blood, and I had to go take him to the ER and shit because he had like split his whole wig open, get stitches and all that. But it wasn't uncommon. That was like a typical Saturday night, like once a month. One of us ended up going to the hospital, getting some stitches at one point or another. It was great, man. What do you remember about the millennial era?
Mm-mm.
No? You're not going to participate? Yeah, but
I didn't get to do much.
well, you grew up in like upper middle class, right? So you weren't.
We rode our bikes down the street and back. Nothing too exciting. We
You,
stayed in the neighborhood
you didn't go outside of the neighborhood?
to a goat farm behind the neighborhood. No. The
No?
corner store was at the end of the neighborhood. So, like,
Yeah,
the
nah.
pool was in the neighborhood. That's where we went.
Dude, we used to go.
Lemon drops and cookies, soggies all day. Burnt.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's another one. Sunburn.
Burnt.
Yeah. Seeing who had the biggest patch of skin you could pull off after a
Don't-
sunburn.
ugh.
Like, dude, look at this thing. It looked
I
like a
was not
sheet
a
of
fan of
paper.
that. Still not a fan of that. So gross.
Yeah, no sunscreen. We didn't do none of that crap. There was no. If anything, you'd put like cocoa butter and shit on. The chicks did. Raw, y'all smell like burnt cocoa butter.
I was always burnt. I didn't wear sunscreen. I had a permanent white line because my nose turns up, so it catches all the sun. It took all my color off, all white.
Yeah, there wasn't none of that. We'd go to Walnut Creek Pool, man. And I think Walnut Creek Pool is probably like, I don't know, a couple miles away, easy, maybe 3 miles. Walk there barefooted in in the hot, scorching freaking Texas sun, pavement and everything. Your bottom of your feet were like calloused. You might as well be wearing shoes. They're so thick and hard. And you could walk on glass and it wouldn't bother you. Yeah.
When we lived in Florida, my mom always had us barefoot. We went everywhere barefoot. Wristband, all three of us together. Beep, beep, boop. I was at the end.
Oh, they had you like roped together so that you
Yeah,
wouldn't
so we wouldn't escape.
See?
I was the youngest, so
It's
my
like-
mom, my sister, and me.
It's kind of like a chain gang, dude. That's what I'm saying. Those are great.
Sometimes no shirts when we're young. The youngest, I saw a lot of pictures. We're shirtless, just hanging out.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Not in public.
That was another one, man. All the baby pictures of you in the bath with your little pee-pee hanging out. And that was like normal for like when you started dating for your mom to be like, oh, and look at him right here when he was just a baby. And I'm
That's
like,
so cute.
nah, nah. My little pee-pee's hanging out. No.
Proportionate, no? Just a baby.
Just a baby. But yeah, it was just so lawless, man. And that's why I say, like, okay, like for any of the cats that are in the younger generations that don't have a problem with us, fine, we don't got no problem with y'all. It's cool. But like, if you really want to test the nuts of that generation and you really want to stir up some shit, you're going to find yourself in a hard place, in a hard predicament, because we came from a spot that did not give a shit about nothing. Stitches were a normal thing. Being left alone was a normal thing. Shit, man. Every freaking milk carton you had some kid's picture on it, got kidnapped. You know what I mean? Like, we watched
Your generation's the white man generation, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I got almost kidnapped twice in my life. First time I ever got almost kidnapped, I literally got snatched up from behind. I was going to see if any of my friends were hanging out, and it was after dark. I snuck out, and like I said, you can't call people, so you don't know where everyone's at. You don't know if anyone's doing anything. So I went down to the corner right by the store. There was a graveyard there, and I think it was someone from the store that like got out and followed me, and dude snatched me up from behind, and I was just kicking and screaming, and I ain't gonna front, I'm not gonna lie, I was like, pick anybody else, just not me. Get someone else, and I was just screaming and acting a fool. And I don't know if maybe someone came out of the store or whatever, but dude ended up dropping me, and I just bolted. I bolted home, ran as fast as my little feet could carry me. And the second time I almost got kidnapped, I was coming home from my school. It was off of North Lamar, and it was a private school. I won't say the name, but I was walking. It was like about a 1.5 mile walk to my house, and I had to walk it every day coming home. And there's like this little makeshift flea market that operated on the weekends, but it was basically like you know how they sell those. They have those fireworks stands, whenever they do fireworks and stuff. It was like a bunch of those, like in a lot. And I was coming across this bridge on the main street, and dude, like something is probably God, but something just told me. I was like, dude, don't go by there, don't go by there. So I like started, like getting off the sidewalk and like looking at the traffic to see if I could cross the street, because normally I'd just keep walking. But I was like, something told me to just go across the street. And like I was looking back, see if there are any cars, looking that way, and I see this dude behind behind one of the fireworks stands, and he's like peeking out. And I was like, oh shit, yep, like my instincts are right, And I was like, oh shit, here we go. And so I like started running across the street, and that dude started booking across the street too, like to head me off. And I was like, nope. But I was fast little kid. Like I used to run from police and all that shit. So like as soon as I got to the other side of the street, I started hopping fences. And I was going through backyards and hopping fences. And he got like 2 or 3 fences, into it, and then he pretty much gave up. But I booked it all the way home. But I knew there was something going down over there. And yeah, that would have been like, y'all wouldn't have been hearing any of this. Not like anyone's listening, but yeah, y'all wouldn't have heard none of it, because I wouldn't be here. I'd be on a milk carton. But yeah.
Well, I'm dead too.
But anyway, that was my piece on the Gen X. I saw a bunch of videos on a Facebook stream that reignited a bunch of these memories for me. But it is going to be a very interesting time whenever we actually get to be in charge of this world, because we knew how to live without the technology that we did. We didn't have computers. We didn't have Facebook. If you did have a computer with internet in the early 90s, yeah, you'd get that.
And when you hit that,
Yeah.
almost done.
And then it's like, you got mail. So we lived without all of that shit. And we lived without socializing, as far as not actually being interactive with people.
We
Right?
remember numbers.
Oh yeah, dude. I do. 832-5339. That was my number in third grade. Yeah. 244-4224. That was my number. That was my phone number when I was in Round Rock. Yeah. 441-4390. That was my grandma's number. Like, I remember all that shit. Like, you know that shit. Yeah. You know it. You don't need to go scrolling through some bullshit
names.
To find out who's what. Nah, dude, you knew that shit right off the top of your fucking nugget. So we were resourceful. We didn't have GPS. We didn't even use maps. I mean, we had maps. We didn't use that shit.
Write down the road.
Yeah, exactly. Like, so, you know, if once we get into power and once we get into taking our countries over and stuff and being in leadership positions, don't fucking piss us off, because we'll shut down the whole system and put y'all into a place where we're perfectly comfortable and you are completely lost because you had no idea how to take care of yourself without all of that extra bullshit. And yeah, we were the generation that coined the term "fuck around and find out." You know, talk shit, get hit. You know, that's just who we were, and it was an awesome time to be alive. It was a great time that taught us a lot and built us into the characters that we are. You know, like, even to this day, man, you can ask Jen. Like, if I got like a migraine, or if I'm, you know, hurting, or if I break something, or she's seen me break freaking digits and ribs and all that shit. I don't need ibuprofen. Like, I'm not eating no pills. You know, that she's like, but you got a broke rib. And I'm like, yeah, it'll be all right. Yeah, it's just gonna suck for a little bit. You know, like, we're tough, thick-skinned ass individuals. And we don't care about the insults. You know what I mean? Like, we don't get triggered. Like, but he hurt my feelings. He wasn't listening about my feelings. You know, it's like, even to this day, if my kids fall busted or if they do something stupid and they fuck their shit up and get hurt, I'm like, yeah, that sucked, didn't it? You won't do that shit again, will you? You know, she's like, but babe,
be nicer.
Be nice. And I'm like, nah, they asked for it.
Fine.
They got it.
They won't do that again.
They won't do it again. Trust me, you won't. You know, no sympathy at all. You'll learn from it. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. You know, go watch some He-Man, put some dirt on it, and shut the fuck up. You'll be fine. Trust me. Limbs grow back somewhat, except for my pinky. Yeah. But yeah, man. So I wanted to touch on that. I think it's a really cool topic. Like I said, Saturday. Cheers, Big Ears.
It's bedtime. I go now. I may be younger, but I act older. I'm an old sleepy fart.
Yeah, Saturday I got.
We'll have fun.
I'm probably gonna shut this one down. Ain't nobody even on.
Maybe
Hopefully
I'll
everyone will
watch it
catch up.
later.
I'm gonna have one of my homies on who I grew up with. I'm gonna have my brothers on, and we're gonna get in, huh? We're gonna get into a bunch of these stories about how crazy it was, and then also for like the later years of Generation X growing up, like when I'm my homeboy Eric on, man. We're going to get into the music part. Like when you're, 15, 16 years old and Rage Against the Machine first hits and all these other bands that people look at us to look like the throwback, like, well, your first mosh pit or your first, because you got to remember, like, that shit didn't exist. Like, I remember when MTV came out with Headbangers Ball for the first time in the 80s, and that was like when Pantera had long hair, like, and you're watching Pantera for the first time, or Metallica's One when that video came out, for the first time, and you're just being introduced to, all this shit as it's happening. It's not something that you're like, oh yeah, I remember hearing about that from my uncle, and then that's why I got, Appetite for Destruction or Use Your Illusion. Like, we were there when it came out, and it was crazy. When Nirvana hit, like stuff like that. Like, to us, when Kurt Cobain died or was unalived by his female. I don't believe in the unaliving himself aspect of it, but like when actually all that shit went down, like I remember where I was, and so to the boomers, it was almost like remembering where you were when the moon landing, quote unquote, happened, or when the JFK assassination happened. Like you remember, those aspects. Remembering the first Lollapaloozas and Warped Tours, and when Pearl Jam came on the scene, like all this stuff that people don't realize, it was the first time for it. Dude, we were the generation that saw gangster rap coming to fruition. Like there wasn't gangster rap before our generation. It didn't exist. You watched it happen. You watched NWA come on the scene. You watched Ice Cube go solo. You were there for it. It was a beautiful moment and a beautiful time that a lot of people take for granted, and that even some of my fellow Gen Xers and everything, that they almost either they forget or choose to forget about it, and they're like, they just kind of bypass it. But I'll tell you this, you can summon that. I saw a video, and that's what reminded me of it. You can summon the entire generation by a few licks of a piece. You put on, hey Jackie, how you doing? You put on like the beginning of When Doves Cry. Every person who grew up in the 70s and 80s, by the first three notes, will instantly start feeling the groove. You know what I mean? It's funny, man. Or Sledgehammer, everyone instantly, what? Ah, started jamming. It's a cultural icon, and I don't know if that's that common today. Because I have 5 kids. I have 5 kids. I have 5 grandkids. And there's no common pieces that can just instantly make their ears go, and perk up, like a dog man and go, what are we talking about? Oh, I know exactly what we're talking about. Or, Michael Jackson's Beat It. Do, 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 do. Instantly, you're already in it. So the music, Weird Al, Madonna, Michael Jackson, Eddie and the Cruises, movies that were even about music. It's just ingrained into who we were as a culture. Dude, the reason why the ozone healed up is because Gen Xers stopped using Aquanet. Like literally, if you don't know what Aquanet is or how high hair used to be on chicks, you have no clue what I'm talking about. But go check it out. It's ridiculous, dude. But it just gives you such a great sense of nostalgia. And I'm not fronting. I'm not going to say that none of the things that y'all did were any different. I mean, I'm sure y'all remember Pokemon and, I remember when Pokemon first came out and blah, blah, blah. But it was nothing like the, the late 70s, the early 80s. It was nothing like Generation X. It was a lawless time that's forever ingrained into the way that the people from that generation acted and how we deal with situations in life. Like I said before, and I'll say it again, we didn't get triggered. There wasn't times where we're like, man, I just need to talk about my feelings. You wanted to talk about your feelings. You're probably going to get smacked upside the head. Don't shut up and eat the rest of your dinner. Go to bed. Yeah. Hell, and that's another one. Yeah. They didn't check on our homework. Our parents didn't give a shit if we did our homework or not. They'd be like, so did you do your homework? Yeah. All right, then. No one checked in on us. No one cared. And we loved it that way. It was great. Don't bother us with the BS, And so, yeah, and that's why I picked this subject because it's gaining popularity right now because Gen Xers are waking up, but also because, man, it just brings up so much differentiality on the way that the world is operating nowadays to the way it did back then. And I think that it's, people have gotten a lot softer. If if you get sick, your parents take you to the freaking doctor or whatever. If we got, oh, dude, if we got like the measles or like chicken pox, your parents would literally make a party for all of you kids to go kick it so you'd all catch it. Like, so you get it over with. Like, no, go hang out with Timmy. He's got chicken pox. All of y'all are going over there for the weekend. So you can all get it. And then that way you get it over with. Then you're covering this itchy bumps that last for 2 weeks. It's like, we didn't quarantine. We pushed you into the fire. I mean, the parents did. They didn't quarantine you. They threw you right into the front lines and told you to build it up and get over it. One of my favorites is I said it earlier. cry and I'll give you something to cry about. Like, think about, nowadays by people's standards, think about how almost cruel it sounds, but it was the point. Like, it toughened you up. Like, oh, you're gonna cry over a skin? Get up, put some dirt on it, shut up. That's what you get for riding your bike that fat. Trying to jump the curb or trying to, that's what you get for getting that plywood ramp and that 2x or center block and trying to jump your friend who's laying down underneath it. It was great, man. And and that's why I enjoyed doing this show, because it's I think it's very important for people to understand, like, how the generation that predates them came into the fruition of how they actually act and how they actually treat subjects, and like, if my kid falls down, I'm gonna laugh. Jen's gonna be like, "Oh, poor baby," and to get on my ass and be like, "Quit laughing. That's not what funny." I'm like, "Nah, that was pretty fucking funny." Did you see me face planted and scorpion? It was awesome. The back of his heels almost touched the back of his head. It was great. And then, now I'm in the doghouse because I'm laughing at the poor kid. And, I feel it because I felt it. I've been there. I did it, So I'm like, oh, yeah, that sucks. Been there. God, that hurts like a bitch. So it's not like that we're like not sympathetic to it. It's that we are sympathetic and we've been through it. And then that's how you fucking learn. That's how you learn not to go ludicrous speed on your freaking bicycle and try to hop a curb. Because we did it and we failed miserably, and we learned from that. And that's why you either get good at it or you don't do it anymore at all, one or the other. So, and sorry that I've had so much of a great time talking about this. Well, I'm not really sorry, but for those of y'all like, what, Breeze is just sitting there laughing and telling horrible stories about, getting hurt and getting stitches and getting banged up and not having parents that were there when he got home from school and had to open up his own door and lock himself inside in second grade and wait till his parents got home from work and have to cook for himself. And, how does he find that funny type crap? But to me, it was. And to me, it was great. And most of the people that I grew up with and the generation that I grew up with will agree with me. Like, that's what made us us. So once again, man, if y'all really thinking about poking the bear and telling us how hard you have it, my kids do that all the time. Oh, but it's so hard. And I'm like, you have no clue, dude. You have no clue. Like, oh, how do I do that? Figure it out on your own. I watched a video actually, and it was this Gen Z kid, and he was like, he's like, this is y'all's fault, Generation X. How did we know that you could pick an apple off a tree and eat it? And I was like, what? Like, were we supposed to teach you that? Like flabbergasted. I'm like, no one taught us that. No one taught us anything, like you just figure it out on your own. Like, we're not your guide to life. If you can't, what happens? What really happens if the system shuts down? what happens if all you that Google anything for information really tries to find something out? You know, you wouldn't know how to look it up in an Encyclopedia Britannica. You know what I mean? Or you know, like that was our go-to. We didn't have Google. We didn't have any kind of information system that would instantly spit out any kind of question that you learned or needed to know. And if you did learn it, you relied on your memory. You'd spend 3 or 4 days like literally sitting there going, man, what was the name of that? Damn, dude, it's driving me crazy. You can just go, what was Hall and Oates' third pop hit? Blah, 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 blah. You know, you couldn't do that. You'd literally have to go until your memory kicked it. And you went, oh, yeah, that's what it was. Blah, 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 blah. You know, what song was Hot for Teacher on? Oh, man, I can't remember. Van Halen is what was it? Was it? Man, I can't, dude. You couldn't just Google it. And then eventually, like, you'd wake up one day and you'd be like, oh, that was on 1984. Yeah. And then you get with your homies like 3 days later, be like, 1984. I told you I'd remember that shit. It's just how it worked, dude. It wasn't spoon fed to us. Nothing was fed to us. If you were hungry, you had to figure out how to eat, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Also, you know, we didn't have. No one asked us, how do you feel about that? Oh, well, the girl you had a crush on called you fat and made fun of you, you know. Oh, well, how'd you feel about that? You know, no one did that. You just had to deal with it, you know, mental illness, stuff like that. You just had to figure it out, man. You either figure it out or you wind up in a bad place, you know. As well, you know, a lot of us went to jail and went to a lot of different places because, you know, we didn't have life coaches like our counselors in school. Your counselor didn't do nothing but bitch at you. That's all they did. They told you how fucked up you were. They told you how, you know, unless you were a good kid. Now, if you're a good kid, they would counsel you on to like, oh, well, you got so many points in, you know, on your high school credits. And then from here, your options are this, and that. But like, if you were a kid like me, you know, the only time you got pulled into the counselors, you know, the school counselor's office or anything, it was to tell you what kind of a piece of crap you were. They would just be like, and you need to straighten up and blah, 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 you know. And teachers also, dude, like, dude, I remember, in the second grade, I was in track and field. I don't know if y'all even have track and field nowadays, but it used to be like a week-long thing. And they'd have like, kind of like schoolyard Olympics, you know, they'd have like, you know, everyone would run races and you'd have like tug of war and all this other stuff. But second grade, man, I was talking crap to some kid. And I guess, you know, through the whole year, my teacher she'd already been fed up with me. And she literally in front of the whole class, and we were outside in front of the whole class. We're all sitting, they used to call it Indian style, which is another thing. Indian style? Really? Like, not even Native American style? That's so offensive. I'm triggered. But like literally slapped me across the face and called me an asshole, like in front of everybody. And did I like go home? I was like, Mug, my teacher. No, I was like, damn, I guess I was being an asshole. No, dude, we weren't like that. We weren't raised that way, and we don't take offense in that way. You know, it was like I said, it was a great time to grow up. I loved every bit of it. I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think that it's more um I think it's more fucked up to be brought up to where you get participation trophies. It's good to know that you lost, that you're a loser, that you couldn't do it. Because in that just the next year, that's what's going to make you fight harder to get into third, second, or first place. You know, without that, to be told that everybody's special and everybody's great and everybody, yes, we all are. We all are. We all are special in our own unique way. Um, we all are exceptional in our own values, but if you're trying for a competition or if you're trying to be uh in a spelling bee and that's what you want to do, or if you're trying to be good at PE or athletics, or then it is a point to be told that no, you're not cutting the mustard, you're not actually doing it. You need to actually improve yourself if you are really trying to uh, participate in this particular program. If you can't sing a key, you don't need to be in choir. If you can't act, you don't need to be in the drama club, unless you really want to work your ass off and do it. And that's what, builds character. That's what builds people up to be a better person in the accomplishments that they want to achieve. So it's not all just abuse and which is a lot of it is. It's pretty funny, but it builds your character. You get smacked upside the head in the middle of freaking. There wasn't no Walmarts back then, but in the middle of Safeway, you know, uh, for talking back to your mom, you're not going to do it again. You literally will not, because she's going to pop you upside the side of the head so hard your ears are going to ring, and you're going to be embarrassed because you're going to see all the people looking at you like, you dumbass, you shouldn't have talked back to your mom, and you're not going to do it again, and you're going to learn from that. And nowadays, they'll be like, but mom, and they go, but honey, literally. All right, I got one for you. I remember, and he was millennial too. I got one for you. Me and my homeboy Matthew, right? We're probably in about fifth grade. He was, I'd say, upper middle class, if not lower high class, as far as wealth was concerned. His mom dropped us off at the movies, and she gave him $20. Now, back then, so this is what, if I was in fifth grade, that had to be like, let's see, about 1986, something like that. So, I think the movies were like $3. Every arcade piece was 25 cents. Milk duds and jujubes and hot tamales and all that shit, that was like $1 each. She gave him $20 for both of us to go to the movies. It was, in my world, it was rare to see a $20 bill. Like, there's no way, dude. If you wanted to go to the movies, you go mow a yard, you go out, or you go do something, work for your bread. You might get like $5, $7, and then you'd be like, dude, I got $7, go to the movies, but yeah, she gave him $20, dude. I'll never forget it. we're in their minivan. I'm in the back seat. He's shotgun. And he's like, Mom, what? Only $20? What the? No, Mom, no. And like started throwing a straight up fucking fit. And I instantly, as soon as he said it, I like braced because I was like, oh shit, he's about to get the shit smacked out of him. Like, because my mom would have just, just backhanded the shit out of me and then grounded me so I couldn't even go to the movies, So, like, I was in awe. Like, I was like, oh, it's about to go down, And, yeah, sure enough, she's like, okay, Matthew, here's another $5, and I was like, holy shit. Like, what just transpired in front of my face? I have no inkling how to even deal with that kind of situation because like that would have never happened. I didn't understand that if you complained or if you bitched about something, how you would gain from that. The only way is down. Talking back or arguing with someone's giving you something, your only direction is straight down. You're not going to gain anything or come to any kind of uprising from that kind of an attitude. You know what I mean? So, but it happened. It happened right in front of my face. But this is also the only kid in the neighborhood that had like more than 10 Nintendo NES games. Like we all had like 3, maybe 4 if you're lucky. You get the original 2 that came with the NES. So you get your Mario Brothers and you get your Duck Hunt. If you got the package that had the gun, But other than that, so like you'd be very selective because games cost like $20, and $20 was a lot of fucking money back then. So you might have like, Excite Bike, or let's see, what is another one that a lot of kids had? Punch Out, like, and not Mike Tyson's Punch Out, but just the first Punch Out, stuff like that. But dude, this kid had like Zelda and like the gold cartridge Zelda or whatever, and Metroid and all these crazy old games. Like, what was another one? What was it called? Roadblock, Mega Man 3, like all these dope games. But because he was a spoiled little shit, and that's how it came to. So I guess my point on that is Generation X also came with its tier of wealth. You know what I mean? Like I knew some Gen X kids that were like in Boy Scouts and they were Eagle Scouts and blah, blah, blah. I got kicked out of Cub Scouts for smoking cigarettes when I was 9 years old. Like, so that wasn't my it wasn't my bag, baby. Yeah. It just really wasn't. Because I didn't grow up with that kind of money, My parents didn't care about they didn't give us allowances. Even dude doing the breaking the yard, you didn't get money for raking the yard. It's expected. Mowing the yard is expected. You know, you didn't get an allowance because you did a chore that you're supposed to freaking do. Yeah, it just didn't work that way. You know, so the entitlement, I think that those cats are the ones that raise their children up with this entitlement factor, and as the generations came through and through, they mutated into what is this entitled generation. Even my youngest son, you know, what can I have? Blah, Roblox, blah 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 blah. You know, and I'm like, and he'll talk to his mom like that, and I'm like, dude, I already got smacked for that. Like, all right, no. I'm like, dude, you really let him say that? And she's like, oh, but he's just, and I'm like, yeah, no, never would have happened. Yeah. And I don't play that factor. You know, I'm compassionate because I understand, you know, a kid's mentality, but I'll be damned if a kid's gonna like raise his voice at me and demand something that he feels that he's privileged to, that he's not, because you're not privileged to anything. Now, if you do something extra, you go beyond and above, then okay, you deserve a little beyond and above. But you don't just get it just for existing, just like you don't get your participation trophy. You don't get your gold star for just being a regular student or not doing anything extraordinary. Then you get that shiny little 3D gold star that would look so freaking cool. And you're like, wow, how do they even make this? It's like the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, it's almost like a hologram. You can, you know, that and that reward for exceptional behavior or exceptional academics is what keeps people pushing further and further. You know, if we keep handing degrees out to kids that can barely function as far as academically, you know, then we're gonna have a whole generation that, and when these people take the throne, like Gen Xers are about to take the throne, when these people finally take the throne, you're going to be dealing with a bunch of subpar individuals that couldn't do handwritten math, you know, if they had to. They rely on their calculators, you know, that's right there on your freaking phone. Part of me looks at it like a joke, because what did they tell us all when we were kids? You're not always going to have a calculator on you, because the calculator was some out the size of my phone. It was some big piece that you had to have extra. You're not always going to have a calculator, so you need to learn how to. And so to me, it's kind of a running joke. I'm like, yeah, well, now I got a calculator, I got a camera, I got a calendar, I got an encyclopedia all right here in my hand. But what happens when they turn it off? And you have no way to deal with or learn or to get answers from or to check on day-to-day life, you know, lessons that you should already know. You're going to be completely and utterly screwed. We're not. The people that grew up without technology in their hand and these giant freaking brick. Remember the first time you ever saw a cell phone if you're a Gen Xer? That was so amazing. You can actually make a phone call from your car. Oh my God. You know, you can't grasp that fact until you can wrap your nugget around it. And you can't learn until you're forced to learn just through your own means of what's directly in front of you. But anyway, all right, I'm gonna call it. It's been 2 hours. Westfall, sorry I didn't have you on, man. I kind of got off on my own tangent. I'm still gonna try to throw a show on in between here and Saturday. Gonna get to maybe a good subject or two and clock it. But I will have you back on. Last night's show was awesome. I tried to edit a piece of it and ended up, I had to like edit it, and I was like, dude, it's badass. And then I went and hit erase from the original and it erased the whole fucking thing. So I don't have it. But I did save it in my StreamYard. So once I can figure out how to download it, re-edit it, and then pop it back up, I'll pop that episode back up because it was a good episode and we had a lot of fun. Other than that, man, I guess all there's left to say is my exiting quotation. And that goes a little something like this. God bless you all. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I hope I brought a little bit of something into your world that gives you something to think about, or at least gives you something to mull over. Keep searching for the truth on everything because it's out there. And if you search enough and you look it up in the Encyclopedia Britannica, you'll find it because it's just a stone's throw away. And yeah. Y'all be safe. Take care and be good to one another. Like straight up. Like always take care of each other. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself, you know. But with that, I'm gonna say this is Joe Breezy tuning out. And yeah. Whoop whoop. Peace.